The military transport helicopter cut through the desert air with its familiar rhythmic thump. Inside, 12 Navy SEALs sat in complete silence, their faces painted with camouflage and eyes focused on the mission ahead. Among them sat Dr. Sarah Chen, the new field medic assigned to their unit. She was smaller than the rest, her medical pack carefully secured beside her, but her eyes held the same steely determination that marked every warrior in that aircraft. The SEALs had been skeptical when they learned their new medic was a woman. Not because they doubted her medical skills, but because combat medicine in the field required more than just knowledge of anatomy and emergency procedures. It demanded the ability to work under fire, to stay calm when bullets were flying overhead, and to make life or death decisions in seconds. Many of them had seen medics freeze during their first real firefight, and a frozen medic meant dead teammates. Sarah could feel their doubt radiating from every corner of the helicopter. She had heard the whispered conversations when they thought she wasn't listening. Some questioned whether she had ever seen real combat. Others wondered if she would panic when the shooting started. Team leader Commander Jake Morrison had been polite but distant during their brief introductions, clearly reserving judgment until she proved herself in the field. As the helicopter began its descent toward the landing zone, Sarah checked her medical supplies one final time. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency through her kit, ensuring every bandage, every vial of morphine, and every surgical instrument was exactly where it needed to be. She had done this routine hundreds of times before, though the SEALs around her had no way of knowing that. The mission briefing had been straightforward. Intelligence suggested a high-value target was hiding in a compound 3 miles from their insertion point. The team would move in under cover of darkness, secure the target, and extract before dawn. It was supposed to be a clean operation, but Sarah knew from experience that no military operation ever went exactly according to plan. Commander Morrison's voice crackled through their headsets as the helicopter touched down. The team moved out in perfect formation, their boots hitting the sandy ground without a sound. Sarah followed their lead, her medical pack bouncing gently against her back as they moved toward their objective. The desert night was cold and clear, with stars providing just enough light to navigate by night vision goggles. For the first 2 hours, everything proceeded exactly as planned. The team moved through the terrain like ghosts, communicating through hand signals and staying completely invisible to any potential enemies. Sarah kept pace without difficulty, her breathing steady and controlled despite the weight of her equipment. Several times she noticed the SEALs glancing back at her, probably expecting to see signs of fatigue or struggle, but she remained focused and alert. The compound appeared ahead of them just as the intelligence reports had described. 3 buildings arranged around a central courtyard, with 2 guards visible near the main entrance. Commander Morrison signaled for the team to take positions, and they spread out according to their predetermined plan. Sarah found herself positioned behind a low stone wall with Petty Officer Marcus Williams, the team's communications specialist. As they waited for the signal to move, Williams whispered to her, "You doing okay, Doc? Your first time in the sandbox can be pretty intense." His tone was friendly but protective, like an older brother looking out for his sister. Sarah simply nodded and gave him a small smile, not wanting to break operational silence with unnecessary conversation. The mission was about to take a turn that would change everything the SEALs thought they knew about their quiet new medic. In the distance, the sound of approaching vehicles could be heard, suggesting that their intelligence might have been compromised. Commander Morrison's voice came through their earpieces with calm authority, but Sarah could detect the underlying tension that came with unexpected complications. What none of the SEALs realized was that Dr. Sarah Chen was about to demonstrate skills that went far beyond anything they had learned in their medical training courses. The sound of approaching vehicles grew louder, and Commander Morrison made the decision to abort the original plan. Through their headsets, he ordered the team to fall back to a secondary position while they assessed the new threat. But as they began to move, the distinctive crack of sniper fire echoed through the night air. Petty Officer Williams dropped beside Sarah, a dark stain spreading across his shoulder. Without hesitation, Sarah's training kicked in, but it wasn't just the medical training the SEALs expected. In one fluid motion, she grabbed Williams and dragged him behind better cover while simultaneously scanning the ridgeline where the sniper fire had originated. Her movements were precise and tactical, showing a level of combat awareness that surprised everyone watching. Sniper, 2 o'clock. Approximately 400 meters, she whispered into her radio with calm precision, even as she began working on William's wound. Her voice carried no trace of panic or fear, just professional assessment of the tactical situation. Commander Morrison found himself doing a double take at her confident tone and accurate range estimation. While applying pressure to William's wound, Sarah continued providing tactical information to the team. Muzzle flash suggests he's using an elevated position behind that rock formation. Probable escape route down the eastern slope. Her hands worked efficiently to stop the bleeding while her eyes never stopped scanning for additional threats. The SEALs were beginning to realize that their new medic was demonstrating skills that went far beyond basic medical training. Her tactical awareness, her ability to provide accurate enemy positions while treating a wounded teammate, and her complete calm under fire suggested military experience that none of them had been briefed about. Sergeant Tommy Rodriguez, positioned about 20 feet away, found himself wondering where a Navy medic had learned to spot sniper positions and estimate ranges with such accuracy. Most medical personnel he had worked with could barely tell which direction enemy fire was coming from, let alone provide precise tactical intelligence while performing emergency medical treatment. As Sarah worked on Williams's shoulder, she noticed something that made her pause. The angle of the bullet wound and the location of the entry point told her something important about their attacker. "Commander," she said quietly into her radio, "based on the wound trajectory, our sniper is left-handed and probably using a Soviet-era rifle. The bullet fragmentation pattern suggests armor-piercing rounds." Commander Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. That level of ballistic analysis wasn't something they taught in Navy medical school. It was the kind of knowledge that came from extensive experience with combat wounds and weapon systems. He began to suspect that Dr. Sarah Chen had a military background that went far beyond what was in her official file. The firefight intensified as more enemy fighters emerged from the compound. Sarah had Williams stabilized, but they were now pinned down by multiple shooters. That's when she did something that shocked every SEAL on the team. She pulled out a pair of binoculars and began systematically studying the enemy positions, calling out tactical information with the precision of a trained military analyst. 3 shooters in the main building, second-floor windows, 2 more behind the vehicle barriers in the courtyard. The sniper has moved position, now approximately 350 meters, northeast of original location. Her voice remained steady and professional, as if she were reading a medical chart rather than analyzing a complex combat situation under fire. Petty Officer Williams, despite his wound, stared at Sarah in amazement. He had been in dozens of firefights with various support personnel, and he had never heard a medic provide such detailed and accurate tactical intelligence. Most medical staff focused entirely on their wounded patients and left the fighting to the combat troops. But Sarah was different. Even as she continued monitoring William's vital signs and adjusting his bandages, she maintained constant awareness of the tactical situation around them. When she spotted an enemy fighter attempting to flank their position, she calmly reported his movement and suggested a counter-strategy that demonstrated advanced military tactical training. Commander Morrison made a decision that would reveal just how much trust Sarah had already earned from the team. He asked her to take temporary command of 2 team members and coordinate a flanking maneuver while he led the main assault. It was an extraordinary request to make of a medic, but her demonstrated tactical knowledge made it the logical choice. What happened next would forever change how the SEALs viewed their quiet new medic and reveal secrets about her past that would explain everything they had witnessed during this intense firefight. Sarah accepted the tactical command without hesitation, her voice shifting into the tone of someone accustomed to giving orders under pressure. She quickly briefed Sergeants Rodriguez and Kim on their approach route, using hand signals that demonstrated advanced tactical communication skills. The 2 SEALs exchanged glances, both recognizing that their medic was operating far above the level of typical medical support personnel. As they moved through the terrain, Sarah's combat instincts became even more apparent. She anticipated enemy movements, identified potential ambush sites, and guided her small team with the confidence of someone who had done this many times before. When they encountered an unexpected sentry, Sarah's reaction was swift and decisive, neutralizing the threat with techniques that clearly came from extensive military combat training. Sergeant Rodriguez couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. During a brief pause behind cover, he whispered to Sarah, "Doc, Where exactly did you learn to fight like that? That wasn't standard Navy Medical Corps training. Sarah's response was simply a slight smile and a finger pressed to her lips, indicating they should maintain operational silence. The flanking maneuver succeeded perfectly, allowing Commander Morrison's main team to advance on the compound. But as they moved closer to their objective, Sarah noticed something that made her blood run cold. Among the enemy fighters, she recognized tactical formations and weapons handling that suggested these weren't ordinary insurgents. They were moving with the precision of trained military units. Through her radio, Sarah provided detailed analysis of the enemy's capabilities and likely background. She identified their probable training origins, predicted their likely defensive strategies, and even estimated their ammunition supplies based on their rate of fire. Once again, the SEALs found themselves amazed by the depth of her military knowledge. When Sergeant Kim took a bullet to his leg during the final assault, Sarah's response revealed even more about her mysterious background. Not only did she provide immediate medical treatment under heavy fire, but she also coordinated defensive fire from her position and directed a tactical withdrawal that saved multiple team members from a potential ambush. Her medical treatment of Kim's wound demonstrated advanced battlefield surgery techniques that went far beyond standard medic training. She performed a complex procedure to repair damaged blood vessels while bullets flew overhead, her hands steady and sure despite the chaos around them. Kim later said it was the most professional medical treatment he had ever received, even compared to treatment at major military hospitals. After the immediate medical emergency was handled, Sarah picked up Kim's rifle and began providing covering fire for the team's advance. Her marksmanship was exceptional, placing precise shots that suppressed enemy positions and allowed her teammates to move safely. Commander Morrison realized he was watching someone with extensive combat experience, not just medical training. The mission concluded successfully with the target secured and all team members alive, though several were wounded. During the helicopter extraction, the SEALs sat in stunned silence as they processed what they had witnessed. Their quiet medic had demonstrated tactical knowledge, combat skills, and leadership abilities that suggested a military background none of them had been briefed about. Petty Officer Williams, his shoulder properly bandaged and pain managed by Sarah's expert treatment, finally asked the question that was on everyone's mind. "Doc, I need to know, where did you serve before joining our unit? Because what I saw tonight wasn't Navy Medical Corps training." Sarah looked around at the faces of the SEALs, all of whom were now looking at her with a mixture of respect and intense curiosity. She could see that her actions during the firefight had raised questions that deserved answers. For the first time since joining the team, she was ready to share some of the truth about her background. "I served in Afghanistan," she said quietly, her voice barely audible over the helicopter's engines. "Multiple deployments with special operations units. But that was a long time ago, and it's not something I usually talk about." The simple statement carried weight that immediately explained everything the SEALs had witnessed during the mission. But as they would soon learn, Sarah's brief explanation was only the beginning of a story that would reveal experiences far more intense and challenging than any of them had imagined. The helicopter ride back to base was filled with unspoken questions. Commander Morrison had radioed ahead for a medical team to meet them on landing. But it was clear that Sarah had already provided such excellent field treatment that the base doctors would have little additional work to do. Both Williams and Kim were stable and in good condition despite their wounds, which spoke volumes about Sarah's medical expertise under combat conditions. After the wounded team members were taken to the base medical facility, Commander Morrison approached Sarah privately. His expression was serious but respectful, as he asked her to join him in his office for a debriefing. The other team members watched them go, each processing their own thoughts about what they had witnessed during the mission. In the privacy of his office, Morrison poured 2 cups of coffee and sat across from Sarah. "I've been leading special operations teams for 15 years, he began carefully, "and I've never seen a medic with your level of tactical knowledge and combat experience. I think my team deserves to know more about who they're working with." Sarah sat quietly for a moment, staring into her coffee cup. When she looked up, there was a sadness in her eyes that Morrison hadn't noticed before. "I was attached to Army Special Forces for 3 years, she said slowly. "Delta Force operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. I wasn't just a medic. I was part of the tactical team. Morrison felt his understanding of Sarah shift completely. Delta Force didn't just take anyone, especially for direct combat roles. The selection process was notorious for its difficulty, and the training was among the most intense in the military. The woman sitting across from him wasn't just an experienced medic. She was an elite warrior who had operated at the highest levels of special operations. "Why did you leave?" Morrison asked gently, sensing there was more to the story. Sarah's expression grew even more distant as she recalled memories that were clearly painful. "My last mission was a rescue operation that went wrong. We lost 4 team members, including my best friend and partner. I couldn't save them, despite all my medical training and combat experience." The pain in her voice was evident as she continued. "After that, I requested transfer to regular Navy medical duty. I thought maybe I could help people without the constant threat of losing teammates in combat. But the Navy assigned me to your unit because they needed someone with both medical skills and combat experience." Morrison understood now why Sarah had been so quiet and reserved since joining the team. She wasn't just adjusting to new teammates. She was dealing with survivors' guilt and the trauma of losing people she had cared about. Her exceptional performance during their recent mission wasn't just training, it was muscle memory from years of high-stakes operations. "The team has a right to know they're working with someone of your caliber," Morrison said carefully. "But I also understand if you prefer to keep your past private. What happened tonight shows you're still one of the best operators I've ever worked with." Sarah shook her head slowly. "I'm not that person anymore, Commander. I'm just trying to be a good medic and keep your team safe. I don't want to lead missions or make tactical decisions. I've seen too much death and lost too many friends." Over the next few days, word of Sarah's performance during the mission spread through the base. Other special operations teams began requesting her for their missions, recognizing that having someone with her unique combination of medical and tactical skills could mean the difference between life and death for their team members. But Sarah consistently declined the requests, preferring to stay with Morrison's team where she felt she could focus on medical duties rather than combat operations. The SEALs in her unit began to understand that their quiet medic was actually a decorated veteran, dealing with her own battles, and their respect for her grew even deeper. Petty Officer Williams, whose life she had likely saved during the firefight, made a point of thanking her privately. "Doc, I don't know what demons you're fighting from your past, but I want you to know that what you did out there saved my life. Whatever happened before, you're making a difference now." Sarah's response was characteristic of her quiet nature, but Williams could see the gratitude in her eyes. She was slowly beginning to realize that her new team understood her struggles and respected her choice to focus on healing rather than fighting, even though they now knew she was capable of both at the highest level. The story of Sarah's past was about to become even more significant as the team prepared for their next mission, one that would test not only her medical skills, but also her ability to confront the memories that still haunted her from her Delta Force days. 3 weeks after the firefight that revealed Sarah's combat background, the team received orders for a mission that would test her resolve more than any of them anticipated. Intelligence reports indicated that American hostages were being held in a compound similar to the one where she had lost her Delta Force teammates years earlier. The similarities were too close for comfort, and Commander Morrison noticed Sarah's reaction when the mission briefing began. During the planning session, Sarah's tactical input proved invaluable once again. She identified potential entry points, predicted enemy defensive positions, and suggested strategies based on her extensive experience with similar operations. But Morrison could see the internal struggle she was facing, as painful memories from her past surfaced with each detail they discussed. Sergeant Rodriguez pulled Morrison aside after the briefing. "Sir, I'm worried about Doc. She looks like she's seeing ghosts when we talk about this mission. Maybe we should request a different medic for this operation." Morrison appreciated the concern, but he knew that Sarah's unique skills might be essential for saving the hostages' lives. That evening, Morrison found Sarah sitting alone in the base chapel, staring at a small photograph in her hands. When he approached, she showed him the picture of 4 Delta Force operators, including herself, taken during happier times in Afghanistan. "This was my team," she said quietly. "The ones I couldn't save." Morrison sat beside her in respectful silence as Sarah shared more details about the mission that had changed her life. The rescue operation had started perfectly, with her team successfully infiltrating the enemy compound and locating the American prisoners. But intelligence had been wrong about the number of enemy fighters, and her team found themselves outnumbered and surrounded. I was treating wounded hostages when the ambush started, Sarah continued, her voice heavy with emotion. My teammates held their positions to protect the prisoners and me, but they were overwhelmed. I watched them die one by one while I tried desperately to keep the hostages alive. By the time reinforcements arrived, I was the only team member left. Morrison understood now why Sarah had been so reluctant to take on leadership roles during their recent mission. The guilt of being the sole survivor had made her question her worth as both a medic and a warrior. She blamed herself for not being able to save her teammates, even though she had successfully kept multiple hostages alive under impossible circumstances. Sarah, Morrison said gently, using her first name for the first time, what you're describing isn't failure. You kept those hostages alive against overwhelming odds. Your teammates died protecting something important, and their sacrifice wasn't in vain because of your medical skills. The next morning, Sarah made a decision that surprised everyone. She requested a private meeting with Morrison and told him she wanted to take a more active tactical role in the upcoming hostage rescue mission. I can't let my past failures prevent me from helping these prisoners, she said with determination. My teammates died so others could live, and I need to honor that sacrifice. Morrison was initially hesitant, knowing the emotional challenges Sarah would face during a mission so similar to her traumatic experience, but he also recognized that her unique combination of tactical and medical expertise could be crucial for the success of the operation and the survival of both the hostages and his team. During the final mission planning, Sarah's input became even more detailed and precise. She identified potential medical challenges they might face with the hostages, suggested tactical modifications based on her previous experience, and developed contingency plans for multiple scenarios. Her professional competence was evident, but so was her determination to overcome the demons from her past. The team spent extra time rehearsing scenarios where Sarah would need to provide both tactical leadership and medical support simultaneously. They practiced communication protocols that would allow her to coordinate rescue operations while treating wounded hostages or team members. The SEALs could see that their medic was preparing not just for a mission, but for a personal confrontation with her own history. On the night before the mission, the entire team gathered for their traditional pre-operation meal. For the first time since joining the unit, Sarah participated fully in their conversations and even shared some stories from her Delta Force days. The other SEALs could see that she was finding peace with her past and preparing to move forward as both a healer and a warrior. Petty Officer Williams raised his coffee cup in a toast. To Doc, he said simply, who shows us that being wounded doesn't mean being broken, and that the quiet ones often carry the heaviest loads. The sentiment was echoed by everyone present, and Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in years. The support of teammates who truly understood her struggles and respected her strength. As they prepared for what would be their most challenging mission yet, Sarah knew she was ready to face not only the enemy they would encounter, but also the memories that had haunted her for so long. The hostage rescue mission began exactly as planned, with the team inserting silently into the target area under cover of darkness. Sarah felt a familiar mixture of adrenaline and focused calm as they approached the compound. But this time there was something different. Instead of the haunting memories that had plagued her for years, she felt the strength and support of her new teammates surrounding her. When they reached the compound perimeter, Sarah took point on the medical assessment of the situation. Using thermal imaging and her tactical experience, she identified the likely location of the hostages and assessed their probable medical condition based on intelligence reports about their captivity. Her analysis proved crucial in determining the team's approach strategy. The initial entry went smoothly, with Sarah providing both tactical overwatch and medical readiness as the team secured the outer buildings. But when they located the hostages, her medical expertise became immediately critical. 3 American civilians had been held captive for weeks, and their physical condition was worse than anticipated. Sarah quickly triaged the hostages while the team maintained security around them. One hostage was severely dehydrated and showing signs of kidney failure. Another had infected wounds that required immediate antibiotic treatment. The third was in relatively good condition, but was experiencing severe psychological distress that could complicate the evacuation. As Sarah worked on stabilizing the hostages Enemy fighters launched a counterattack that was remarkably similar to the ambush that had killed her Delta Force teammates years earlier. For a moment, the memories threatened to overwhelm her. But then she heard Commander Morrison's voice in her earpiece, calm and confident, directing the team's defensive response. Instead of freezing with traumatic memories, Sarah found herself responding with a clarity and purpose she hadn't felt in years. She continued treating the hostages while simultaneously providing tactical intelligence to her teammates, coordinating their defensive positions, and managing the complex medical challenges of preparing severely ill patients for emergency evacuation. When Sergeant Kim was wounded during the firefight, Sarah faced the same situation that had haunted her dreams for years, treating a wounded teammate while under heavy enemy fire. But this time was different. This time she had teammates she could trust, a plan that was working, and the confidence that came from years of experience and growth. Sarah successfully stabilized Kim's wound while directing defensive fire and coordinating the evacuation of the hostages. Her ability to manage multiple critical tasks simultaneously impressed even the experienced SEALs around her. They were witnessing not just exceptional medical and tactical skills, but also the healing of a warrior who had found her way back from trauma. The extraction was complicated by the need to carry wounded team members and weakened hostages, but Sarah's preparation and planning made the difference. She had anticipated the medical challenges and had equipped herself with specialized gear that allowed her to maintain life support for the hostages during the difficult journey to the extraction point. During the helicopter ride back to base, Sarah sat between the rescued hostages and her wounded teammate, monitoring vital signs and adjusting medical treatment as needed. But for the first time in years, she wasn't consumed by guilt or fear. She was simply doing what she did best, saving lives and protecting her team. Commander Morrison watched. Sarah worked during the flight and realized he was seeing the complete integration of her skills as both a medic and a warrior. She had successfully confronted her past trauma while maintaining her commitment to healing rather than simply fighting. She had found a way to honor her fallen teammates by becoming an even better protector of the living. After the mission, the team's respect for Sarah evolved into something deeper than professional admiration. They had witnessed her journey from a quiet, wounded warrior to someone who had integrated her pain into a source of strength. Her story became an inspiration to other veterans struggling with similar trauma and survivor's guilt. The successful rescue mission marked a turning point not just for the hostages who were saved, but for Sarah herself. She had proven that being wounded by past experiences didn't have to define her future capabilities. She could carry the memory of her lost teammates while still being fully present and effective for her current team. In the weeks that followed, Sarah began speaking with other veterans about trauma and recovery, sharing her story of how professional purpose and supportive teammates had helped her find healing. She remained the quiet, competent medic her SEAL team had come to depend on. But now she was also a symbol of resilience and the possibility of growth beyond trauma. The SEALs who had initially doubted whether their new medic could handle combat pressure now competed to have her assigned to their missions. They knew they were working with someone whose wounds had been transformed into wisdom, whose quiet strength came from having faced the worst and chosen to keep protecting others. Sarah had become not just an exceptional medic, but a reminder that true warriors are defined not by their scars, but by how they choose to serve despite them.